Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Arsenic and Old Lace, film. Arsenic and Old Lace is a 1944 American dark comedy film directed by Frank Capra, starring Cary Grant, and based on Joseph Kesselring's play Arsenic and Old Lace. The script adaptation was by Julius J. Epstein and Philip G. Epstein. Capra actually filmed the movie in 1941, because of star Cary Grant's availability, but it was not released until 1944, after the original stage version had finished its run on Broadway. The lead role of Mortimer Brewster was originally intended for Bob Hope, but he could not be released from his contract with Paramount. Capra had also approached Jack Benny and Ronald Reagan before learning that Grant would accept the role. Boris Karloff played Jonathan Brewster, who looks like Karloff, on the Broadway stage. But he was unable to do the movie as well, because he was still appearing in the play during filming, and Raymond Massey took his place. The film's supporting cast also features Priscilla Lane, Jack Carson, Everett Horton, and Peter Lorre. Josephine Hull and Jean Adair portray the Brewster sisters, Abby and Martha, respectively. Hull and Adair, as well as John Alexander, were reprising the roles from the 1941 stage production. Hull and Adair both received an 8-week leave of absence from the stage production that was still running, but Karloff did not, as he was an investor in the stage production and its main draw. The entire film was shot within those 8 weeks. The film cost just over $1.2 million of a $2 million budget to produce. Plot. The plot revolves around the Brewster family of Brooklyn, New York, descended from the Mayflower, and composed of illustrious white Anglo-Saxon Protestant ancestors whose portraits line the walls. The religious theme is repeatedly mentioned, and Elaine is the daughter of the minister who lives next door, with some scenes held in its ancient cemetery. Today the Brewster clan comprises insane murderers. Despite having written several books ridiculing marriage as an old-fashioned superstition, Mortimer Brewster falls in love with Elaine Harper, who grew up next door to him in Brooklyn, and, on Halloween Day, they marry. Immediately after the wedding, Mortimer visits the eccentric but lovable relatives who raised him, and who still live in his old family home, his elderly aunts Abby and Martha, and his brother Teddy, who believes he is Theodore Roosevelt. Each time Teddy goes upstairs, he yells, "Charge," and takes the stairs at a run, imitating Roosevelt's famous charge up San Juan Hill. Mortimer finds a corpse hidden in a window seat, and assumes that Teddy has committed murder under some delusion. But his aunts explain that they are responsible. They explain in the most innocent terms that they have developed what Mortimer calls the very bad habit of ending the presumed suffering of lonely old bachelors by serving them elderberry wine spiked with arsenic, strychnine and just a pinch of cyanide. The bodies are buried in the basement by Teddy, who believes he is digging locks for the Panama Canal and burying yellow fever victims. To complicate matters further, Mortimer's brother Jonathan arrives with his alcoholic accomplice, plastic surgeon Dr. Herman Einstein. Jonathan is a murderer trying to escape the police and find a place to dispose of the corpse of his latest victim, a certain Mr. Spenelzo. Jonathan's face, as altered by Einstein while drunk, looks like Boris Karloff's in his makeup as Frankenstein's monster. This resemblance is frequently noted, much to Jonathan's annoyance. Jonathan, upon finding out his aunt's secret, decides to bury Spenelzo in the cellar, and soon declares his intention to kill Mortimer. While Elaine waits at her family home next door for Mortimer to take her on their honeymoon, Mortimer makes increasingly frantic attempts to stay on top of the situation, including multiple efforts to alert the bumbling local cops to the threat Jonathan poses, as well as to get the paperwork filed that will have Teddy declared legally insane and committed to a mental asylum. He also worries that he will go insane like the rest of the Brewster family.
As he puts it, insanity runs in my family, practically gallops. While explaining this to Elaine, he claims they've been crazy since the first Brewsters came to America as pilgrims. But eventually Jonathan is arrested, Einstein flees, and Teddy is safely consigned to an asylum, where the two aunts insist upon joining him. Finally, Abby and Martha inform Mortimer that he is not biologically related to the Brewsters after all. His real mother was the aunt's cook, and his father had been a chef on a steamship.
If he is not an upper-class Brewster, then he realizes he will not become insane or a murderer. In the film's closing scene, after lustily kissing Elaine and before whisking her away to the honeymoon, he gleefully exclaims, "I'm not a Brewster, I'm a son of a sea cook." Commentary. The play was written by Joseph Kesselring, son of German immigrants and a former professor at Bethel College, a pacifist Mennonite college.
It was written in the anti-war atmosphere of the late 1930s. Capra scholar Matthew C. Gunter argues that the deep theme of the play and film is the conflict in American history between the liberty to do anything and America's bloody hidden past.
Reviews. The contemporary critical reviews were uniformly positive. The New York Times critic summed up the majority view as a whole: "Arsenic and Old Lace. The Warner picture, which came to the Strand yesterday, is good macabre fun." Variety declared, "Capra's production, not elaborate, captures the color and spirit of the play, while the able writing team of Julius J. and Philip G. Epstein has turned in a very workable, tightly compressed script. Capra's own intelligent direction rounds out Harrison's." Reports wrote, "In hilarious entertainment, it should turn out to be one of the year's top box office attractions."
John Lardner of The New Yorker called the film practically as funny in picture form as it did on the stage, and that is very funny indeed. 24 years after the film was released, Charles Hyam and Joel Greenberg wrote Hollywood in the 40s, where they stated that Frank Capra provided a rather overstated and strained version of Arsenic and Old Lace.
The film is recognized by American Film Institute in these lists. Radio adaptations. Arsenic and Old Lace was adapted as a radio play for the November 25, 1946 broadcast of the Screen Guild Theatre with Boris Karloff and Eddie Albert, and the January 25, 1948 broadcast of the Ford Theatre. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.